Hey, lovelies, Grand Rising. I wanted to share this has been on my mind that, I'm just rambling, but it's been on my mind from doing some paperwork right now that this particular tarot messenger and her friends, she has ties with the Sacramento County Sheriff Department, and I have a download of one of her videos, many of her videos. I'll put it somewhere else now this time because they're hacking my phone and deleting my shit. So this particular video, and she specifically stated when the sheriff came to my apartment and I was reporting this theft, and they brought this counselor with him rather, and he had this camera on him, and this particular deputy, other deputies in that area, they rarely put on their cameras, rarely, you know what I'm saying, unless it's stringent circumstances. So he walks in my room. Of course, everything was put up and everything else. Meaning to say that I was in the process of moving and packing my stuff. This is before the eviction stuff was going about. So I was telling him about the cameras in my bathroom, and he was like basically saying that, oh, they removed them, something like that. He said, right? So fast forward, this particular tarot messenger, aka, she's part of the community. She's living in Sacramento. She was part of the theft. Did the scheming and scam and everything else. And I don't want to say her name, but she gets triggered when I say some shit, right? So long story short, about a few days later after that incident when the sheriff came to my apartment, when I was reporting this theft, and she mentions what was in my bedroom, right? Now, how do you know all that? And she mentioned how the sheriff deputy got on the property management for saying certain things about me, right? Which wasn't true. Because in that community, they try to control the people because majority of the tenants there have mental health issues. They have contracts with the Sacramento County Mental Health Department, and they get money for placing these people from the mental health hospital to evaluate and all type of bullshit. They have hidden cameras in their units and everything else. That's part of the supposed to be experiment. I know that. So another time I got pulled over, and one of the deputies who's in that area, at one point, there's two incidents. One point I was doing DoorDash, and I was picking up an order at a liquor store, and one deputy, he hangs out the door. I mean, he saw me. I was on the opposite side of the street. They turned around. I parked my car. I get out, and I wasn't even thinking nothing too much about it. So I'm like to myself, okay, let me see what's cracking, basically. The deputies passed me. There were two in the car. They passed me up. I was entering the liquor store, and one called me a snitch. And I'm like, what? Like, did I hear this right? And they just drove off, right? So after that time, I started wearing like these little camera things so I can capture stuff because these people, they're unpredictable. Well, the sheriffs are at times. They're like vultures. They'll swarm around. They'll harass you. They'll antagonize you. Get behind you, pull you over, laugh about it, shit like that, right? And then they make sure that your insurance rates go up, for some bullshit. So, anyways, long story short, when I got pulled over, this another time, the same liquor store, I picked up an order, and the deputy, who is the guy who's assigned to North Sacramento, which is North Highlands, he parked at a far distance in the dark. He didn't get out the car. So the other deputy pulled me over, and then he goes back to the other officer's car in the back, and they start discussing some bullshit. I don't know what they were doing. So the other deputy, who's trying to find something about, we don't know if you have drugs in your car, some bullshit, right? And I said to myself, I wish you would, you know what I mean? Because this is great. And I was in the dark, too, at that. And I was so mad. I had a headache because my blood pressure was going up. I was talking hecka fast. And he's trying to find something, look at my license plate, the front and back. Turns out somebody trying to take off my front license plate as well. I learned that already, later on. And then talk about my tent was too dark and all kind of bullshit, whatever. They're harassing me. So fast forward, and I listened to many of you guys, to this tarot messenger, this particular tarot messenger. She's from Sacramento. She moved because the heat was on her, after, my brother got, incarcerated because they were all doing scams and schemes and shit like that. I mean, I kind of suspected it in the beginning, but I really didn't know. But now I do know who the game players are, who's involved, who's, connected to who's related to who was adopted and part of the confidential informant, who used to work for the sheriff department, who worked for as a CEO, all kind of stuff, portraying to be just disabled to get state compensation, but they're not really. They're working, all kind of shit. I'm trying to tell you. You keep fucking with me, you guys gonna lose everything. But anyways, long story short, this particular terror messenger, she said something like, yeah, we saw the camera footage and she is ugly, like basically like that, because I knew shit about me. That time I had this fucked up wig. But I didn't give a fuck. I was working, I had no makeup on and whatever. Because they're trying to create a scenario of possibly like mental illness because that area is prone to that. That's the majority of their tenants that have contract with the county mental health department, or social services, or whatever department of the services. And number two, they're stealing I believe, my inheritance. They're a part of my family. They're doing fraud, scheming, scamming, PPP loan frauds, hacking people's computers, changing their networks. The manager was involved in it. The community members were involved in it. Meth heads are involved in it. I mean, I have the whole list. The stalking, the harassment. Because this didn't ever happen until I moved to North Highlands. And as far as I'm concerned, they want control of all their tenants. They want to know what they're doing up with their, what and what, because they were checking people's mails, they were breaking people's mailboxes. They will say, we don't know, but I seen firsthand, it was the management going to people's mailbox late at night, and that's why they moved that mailbox from the front office to by the garbage can, or to the other guy who, who's the eyes and ears for the community, because he's, whatever they do. So basically, all said and done, I just, wanted to say this out there because the sheriff deputies, there's two of them, and one goes in disguise as a cable man, are involved in these plots and schemes and fraud. And I'm convinced, like I said before, and I put it in writing, that they've been manipulating my, these quote unquote arrest records. And see, like when one of my children were just made 18, I told them keep your nose clean, but they're gonna be targeting you. They didn't want to listen. So now, based on that, they lost their job. The sheriff told me, leave it alone. I'm like, why leave it alone for what? You know what I'm saying? And see, I already knew they were targeting my family because I'm speaking up, because they didn't know what they did was all fraudulent anyway. So I just want to say this, to say that I know this terror messenger. She was from Sacramento, and when the heat was on in regards to, the fraud, the scheming, the hacking, that's how they know so much, because when they stole my information from my apartment, and nobody said a word about it, even the attendant, I don't know her name, but she drives a black SUV, and she got a car from John L. Sullivan, which John L. Sullivan has a contract with these on-site IT people. And I do have the information in regards to the contracts too. So I'm not saying anything that I don't know, And her son zapped my door, and I'm assuming it was because my keys used to sit by my front door, and it's called rolling fobs, if you know anything about that. So we have a manufactured door locking system in your car. People use just called rolling fobs, and then they scramble your numbers, and they get information on another fob, and then they'll get into your vehicle. There's a lot of locksmiths in that area, late at night, making keys, all kind of bullshit people's cars. It's a lot of stuff, and part of it has to do with the management. Not the actual company name per se, it's the employees, because they shift around, move around, and, it's a lot of stuff. So that explains why this government program, which is the local government program for mental health patients in that community, because those apartments, that particular community has a contract with the Department of Health and Human Services, mental health services, and they put people from those places in those apartments, and they'll be monitored and whatever. They put hidden cameras into those apartments so they can monitor those patients, basically, tenants, or whatever you want to call it. So that explains a whole lot what I'm going through, and I just totally regret because I've never been. This stuff didn't happen until I moved to that area. I lived in many areas until I noticed, the abruptness, and they're so predictable at that time, with their behaviors and everything else. I'm like, this is unbecoming. Like, people are bothering me. They want to know what I'm doing, what I'm up to. They're in my computer, committing fraud and scams, following me around town. They had meth heads, and I believe a meth head came over to where I'm at temporarily because, you can kind of hear the dragging of the leg, like a person who does meth. If you ever know people who do meth, like, I learn a lot in that community. One of their limbs, it always drags, and one in their bottom half of their body is always big, like bloated up because those drugs, whatever. And whoever came in, because my phone was turned off, and I overheard somebody walking, and they're dragging their leg, and I'm like, that's no officer because you will not be on duty. And I guess they wanted to see if I was still here, if my phone was on or something, checking on the shit. And these people are from North Highlands, because they're mad because they used to work under the table, and they still do, and their money has been stopped, for doing all these crimes against humanity. So at this point right now, I just wanted to say that, this been on my mind. It's been on my mind for a while. And I noticed when I mention this particular tarot messenger, I don't say their name, I say the instant because they know who they are. Because they went on my phone and she quoted one of my passwords for my modem, my router, or whatever it's called, the internet, the Wi-Fi. And she also quoted what type of phone I'm on, and then quoted my son's phone, which nobody should know about that, the model and everything else. And she starts giggling and laughing and shit. But they're all involved, and they're all gonna go down with it. And it's a property management who's behind it to provide misinformation, to kind of, antagonize the people out there. But little do they know that what they're doing, what they have been doing for many years, has been documented. So whatever they were doing, like against me, and documenting this, and watching this, calling that, it didn't work. All I did was observe and look. You know what I mean? And even when my brother was telling me, my younger brother, he was telling me, the one that's not incarcerated, I was telling him about my mom's and my dad's picture was missing off my bookshelf, right? And all of a sudden, I think it was 2020 because I was doing the Uber. And he said, oh, it could be the FBI. But for him to say that, I'm like, what? I was far from my mind. I said FBI. And then one girl was contacting me out of the clear, talking about the FBI profile. I said, profile for what? Like, nobody contacted me. I ain't doing nothing, that I thought. So my brother was like, yeah, the FBI, because, our brothers in the Panther clubs. Or so. I said, what? Panther what? And I said, I had to look it up on the internet. I'm like, what the heck? And then I started thinking, I said, no, the FBI is not that sloppy. If they're going to get you, they're going to come and bulldoze kick your door in, and they're going to take your shit, and you better not move, So that was a lie. I knew that. And then not even that, like I said, when I first moved over there, all of a sudden, just my son's computer, it had porn pops up on the screen. So I kind of figured it was a setup anyway because I remember, I can't say what and what, but somebody tried to accuse me of certain things. I'm like, what? And even the school was like, you guys doing something on the computer? I'm like, no, like what? And then at one point I was laying on the couch, like I said in my other videos, I was laying on the couch, and my son's on the computer. I guess looking at, stuff pops up, kids, they're curious because before we moved there, he wasn't even thinking about that type of stuff. He was thinking about army men and, doing this little, replays and stuff or whatever it was.